Ladies and gentlemen, today, I invite you not into fear, but into remembrance. Long before shadows were given names, before darkness learned to whisper, the human body was already a sacred temple, and every temple has doors, places of entry where intention, awareness, and grace decide what may stay and what must leave. Olive oil is not magic, it is memory. It remembers the sun, the patience of trees, the crushing of fruit into essence. When you anoint, you are not fighting witchcraft, you are affirming authority. Darkness does not flee because it is attacked, it flees because it is exposed to consciousness. Begin with the head, the crown where thoughts are born. When oil touches this place, confusion loosens its grip. The mind remembers silence. No external force can survive where clarity is honored. Move to the eyes. These are not merely organs of sight, they are windows of interpretation. Anoint them, and perception sharpens. Illusions dissolve. You begin to see not what fear shows you, but what truth reveals. Then the ears. So much disturbance enters not through events, but through words. When you anoint the ears, you choose what deserves to be heard. Gossip loses power. Threats lose volume. Only wisdom finds resonance. Next, the heart, the center of emotional gravity. This is where old wounds try to masquerade as curses. When oil touches the chest, the heart softens without becoming weak. Love becomes a shield no darkness can penetrate. Finally, the feet. Every journey begins here. Anointing the feet is declaring that wherever you walk, confusion cannot follow. The path rearranges itself to meet someone who walks with awareness. Remember this: witchcraft, negativity, and unseen influences do not survive in the presence of embodied intention. When the body is aligned, the spirit stands tall. You do not chase darkness away. You become light, and darkness simply has no place to sit. By Padifire's key point, our anointing is awareness, not superstition. Ladies and gentlemen, anointing has been misunderstood for centuries, because the human mind is conditioned to look for power outside itself. When olive oil is reduced to superstition, it becomes an object of fear or blind belief. But in truth, anointing is an act as awareness. It is a moment where the body, the mind, and intention meet in full presence. The oil itself does not chase away darkness, it simply becomes a medium through which consciousness is invited to take its rightful seat. Superstition is born when action is separated from understanding. Awareness is born when action is infused with intention. When you anoint, you are not performing a ritual to impress the unseen. You are signaling to your own nervous system that something sacred is taking place. The body listens. The breath slows. The mind becomes receptive. In that receptive state, chaos has no place to anchor itself. Olive oil has carried symbolism across civilizations because it represents patience, nourishment, and continuity. Trees that produce it do not rush, they endure. When this oil touches the skin, it becomes a reminder that strength does not come from aggression but from rootedness. Awareness is not loud, it is steady, and anything rooted in fear cannot survive in steadiness. What people often call witchcraft thrives in unconsciousness. It feeds on repetitive emotional patterns, fear, resentment, insecurity, and self-doubt. When awareness enters the body, these patterns lose their fuel. You are no longer reacting, you are responding. And in response, clarity begins to replace confusion, like dawn replacing night without effort or struggle. So understand this deeply: anointing is not about escaping darkness, nor is it about fighting invisible enemies. It is about becoming present enough that nothing unconscious can attach itself to you. Awareness is the highest protection. When you anoint with this understanding, the act becomes a declaration, not to the world but to yourself, that you are awake. Fakwav's key point twinhe. The head governs clarity. Ladies and gentlemen, the head is not merely a physical structure resting upon the shoulders, it is the command center of human experience. Every decision, every fear, every belief first passes through this space. When the head is clouded, life feels heavy, directionless, and fragmented. Anointing the crown is a symbolic yet deeply psychological act. It is the conscious choice to restore order where confusion has been allowed to settle. Thoughts are powerful, but they are not always truthful. Many of the struggles people attribute to external forces actually originate from unexamined thought patterns looping endlessly in the mind. When olive oil touches the crown, it marks a pause. That pause interrupts mental noise. In that silence, you begin to see that clarity does not need to be created. It needs to be uncovered. The crown of the head has long been associated with higher awareness, because it represents the point where individuality meets vastness. When you anoint this place with intention, you are acknowledging that intelligence is not limited to memory or logic. There is a deeper knowing available when the mind stops competing and starts listening. Confusion dissolves not by force, but by surrender to stillness. Witchcraft, negativity, or psychological disturbance, whatever name one gives to inner chaos, cannot survive in a clear mind. A confused mind is fertile ground for fear-based imagination. A clear mind becomes inhospitable to intrusion. When clarity is established, even external negativity loses its capacity to disturb because it finds no internal echo. To anoint the head is to reclaim authorship of your inner narrative. You are choosing awareness over reaction, silence over noise, understanding over assumption. In that state, the mind becomes a servant rather than a master. And when the mind is aligned, the entire being follows, calm, centered, and unshakable. Ficus's key point 3. The senses are spiritual gateways. Ladies and gentlemen, the human senses are not passive receivers. They are gateways through which the world enters your inner space. Among them, the eyes and ears are the most powerful. What you see and what you hear quietly shape your thoughts, your emotions, and ultimately your destiny. When these gateways remain unguarded, disturbance does not need permission, it simply walks in. Anointing the eyes and ears is an act of conscious guardianship. The eyes do more than register images, they interpret reality. When fear dominates perception, even neutral events begin to appear threatening. Anointing the eyes is not about changing the world outside, it is about refining how you see it. With awareness, vision becomes clear rather than reactive. Illusion fades, exaggeration dissolves, and truth stands simple and unadorned. The ears, too, carry immense influence. Words penetrate deeper than actions, because sound bypasses logic and lands directly in emotion. Harsh speech, constant negativity, and fear-driven narratives quietly program the mind. When you anoint the ears, you are declaring sovereignty over what you allow to shape your inner world. Not every voice deserves access. Not every opinion needs residence. What people often label as witchcraft or negative influence frequently enters through repeated exposure. What is heard again and again begins to feel real, even if it is false. Anointed awareness breaks this cycle. You begin to hear selectively. Wisdom resonates. Noise loses authority. Fear finds no echo chamber in a listening space rooted in consciousness. When the senses are aligned with awareness, they no longer leak energy. They become filters instead of funnels. The eyes see without attachment. The ears hear without absorption. In such a state, the inner world remains undisturbed regardless of external chaos. Darkness does not flee because it is chased away. It departs because there is no doorway left open. As key point 40, the heart is the strongest shield. Ladies and gentlemen, the heart is not only an organ that pumps blood, it is the emotional and energetic center of the human being. Every experience you have ever lived has passed through this space and left an imprint. Joy expands it, pain contracts it, and fear hardens it. When people speak of protection, they often imagine armor, but true protection does not come from hardness, it comes from coherence. Anointing the heart is an act of restoring harmony to the very center of your being. Many believe negativity enters the mind first, but in truth, it often anchors itself in unresolved emotions stored in the heart. Old wounds, unspoken grief, betrayal, and resentment become openings through which disturbance operates. When olive oil touches the chest with awareness, it is not covering the heart, it is softening it. And a softened heart is not weak, it is resilient. It bends without breaking. Love is not a sentiment, it is a state of alignment. When the heart is aligned, fear loses its grip. Witchcraft, negativity, and harmful intentions cannot operate where there is emotional clarity. They depend on contraction, on inner conflict, on self-rejection. An anointed heart radiates acceptance, and acceptance dissolves resistance, the very thing negativity feeds upon. People often try to protect themselves by closing their hearts, but this creates isolation, not safety. A closed heart becomes heavy, guarded, and reactive. An anointed heart remains open yet grounded. It allows emotion to flow without drowning in it. In this flow, there is no stagnant energy for darkness to cling to. To anoint the heart is to declare that love, not fear, is your primary defense. When love becomes your posture, you no longer need to fight unseen forces. The heart becomes a living shield, not by pushing darkness away, but by shining so steadily that darkness finds no place to rest. 5pk.5 Your path responds to your state of being. Ladies and gentlemen, the feet are the most humble yet the most powerful part of the body. They carry the weight of your past, support the present, and move you toward the future. Every step you take is a silent declaration of who you are becoming. Anointing the feet is not a ritual of fear, it is a conscious acknowledgement that your journey is sacred. Where you walk matters, but more importantly, how you walk matters even more. Life does not unfold randomly. The path you experience responds directly to your inner state. When the mind is restless, the path feels obstructed. When the heart is heavy, the road feels long. By anointing the feet, you are aligning your movement with awareness. You are telling existence, I walk with intention. Confusion cannot follow someone who moves with clarity, because confusion depends on hesitation and inner division. Many people believe negativity chases them, but in truth they unknowingly carry it with them through unconscious patterns. Fear creates fearful paths. Anxiety attracts instability. Anointing the feet is a moment of interruption, a reset. It signals the end of wandering without purpose. From that point forward, each step becomes grounded, deliberate, and protected by awareness rather than luck. Witchcraft, negativity, or harmful influence cannot keep pace with someone who is inwardly aligned. Such forces rely on imbalance, distraction, and emotional turbulence. When the feet are anointed, movement becomes meditation. Even difficult terrain loses its power to exhaust you, because you are no longer resisting the journey, you are present within it. To anoint the feet is to trust life again. It is to walk without dragging yesterday's burdens into tomorrow. When your state of being is rooted in awareness, the path reorganizes itself. Doors appear, obstacles soften. You do not outrun darkness, you simply walk so consciously that it cannot walk beside you. Key point 5 Your path responds to your state of being. Ladies and gentlemen, the feet are often ignored in spiritual conversations, yet they are the most honest witnesses of a human life. They have stood in uncertainty, walked through loss, and carried hope even when the mind was tired of believing. Every step you have ever taken holds memory. When you anoint the feet, you are not blessing distance or direction, you are acknowledging movement itself as sacred. You are recognizing that life is not something you observe, it is something you walk through, moment by moment. Your outer journey is always a reflection of your inner posture. When the inner world is fragmented, the road ahead feels unstable. When the inner world is aligned, even uneven paths feel navigable. Anointing the feet is a way of telling the body, move from awareness, not from fear. This shift changes how life responds to you. Situations that once felt threatening begin to feel instructional. Delays stop feeling like punishments and begin to feel like recalibration. Many believe that negative forces block their progress, but most obstacles are amplified by inner resistance. When fear walks ahead of you, every turn feels dangerous. When awareness leads, the same turns feel manageable. Anointed feet symbolize conscious movement that is not rushed, not hesitant, but rooted. Rooted movement carries authority, and authority rearranges circumstances without confrontation. The feet are also symbols of grounding. While the mind dreams upward and the heart expands outward, the feet connect you to the earth. When you anoint them, you bring spirituality out of abstraction and into daily life. Awareness no longer remains an idea, it becomes embodied. Each step becomes a practice. Each walk becomes a reminder that presence is portable and does not depend on environment. Negativity often follows those who are internally scattered. It thrives in indecision, self-doubt, and constant second-guessing. When the feet are anointed with intention, direction emerges naturally. You may not know the full map, but the next step becomes clear. Clarity in movement reduces vulnerability, because confusion is the doorway through which disturbance enters. There is a deep intelligence in walking consciously. The body knows when it is being rushed by anxiety, and when it is being guided by awareness. Anointing the feet helps restore trust between you and your own movement. You stop forcing outcomes and start cooperating with timing. In this cooperation, resistance softens and the journey becomes lighter. Every place you step into responds to the energy you carry there. Rooms feel different when you enter them grounded. Conversations unfold differently when you arrive centered. Paths that once felt hostile lose their edge when you walk them without inner conflict. The anointed feet do not demand safety, they embody it. Walking with awareness transforms ordinary movement into silent prayer. The earth receives each step differently when it is placed with intention. Momentum builds not from speed, but from consistency. As awareness settles into the body, the path continues to reveal itself through movement, through contact, through presence rather than prediction.